everybody, it's Natalie Bensavanga, and I am here with Desmond Price of Independent Thought. Guys, I woke up this morning and it was just joy, just coming off of me, which is a new feeling. I don't think I've felt that since the election in last year. So let's just all be in that space tonight. We're going to talk about all the big wins that we saw happen, really in the attempt to save democracy here across the United States. But to kick things off, first, we're going to talk about something that also happened the same morning of the election. And that's right, your friend and mine, Dick Cheney, kicked the bucket, finally. So we're going to talk a little bit about how that really set the tone for the rest of the day, because I was already happy just hearing that news. And then to see the tidal wave of blue that followed, we're going to break down some of the best races. Desmond, I wanted to kick things off, though, talking about Cheney, because I wanted to read you the Nation. They had, I think, one of the best headlines. And I'm just going to read it to you, and then you can tell me your thoughts about this whole situation. His works completed, Dick Cheney, mass murderer of Iraqis and American democracy, dies.
Yes, okay.
That's pretty strong and accurate.
Very accurate.
So tell me a little bit of your thoughts when you found out the news that Cheney had died.
I immediately went into the space of, I know that there are going to be more centristy folks, or maybe well-meaning folks who wanted to talk about all the different ways that Dick Cheney was, bucking this current Republican Party and how he's one of the good ones. And sure enough, as I was going online to see some of the reactions, exactly what I saw were people talking about the times where he called out Donald Trump and about like how he campaigned against Donald Trump. And I think there are too many younger folks who do not truly understand who Dick Cheney was as a vice president of the United States. And in a lot of ways was the de facto president of the United States underneath the George W. Bush era. I will not give you a long version of how I feel about this. I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. But the fact of the matter is that in a lot of ways, a lot of people will agree that Dick Cheney was actually steering the boat for the George W. Bush administration, which led to, most notably, the invasion of Iraq, which led to thousands of U.S. troops being killed for something that we should never have been there in the first place. They had nothing to do with 9/11. They weren't sponsoring a bunch of different terrorist cells in the area, as the George W. Bush's administration claimed. They did not have weapons of mass destruction, as George W. Bush and his administration claimed. And we occupied that area for over a decade. Over 1 million people were killed. Over 1 million people were killed. It's a horrific number. And I think in a lot of ways, no one really reckons with that how many people actually died as of the results of us being lied to by an administration that in large part was led by Dick Cheney. Like, he had his hands on that. He had his hands all over the permanent surveillance state that's in America now due to the Patriot Act and how people can be spied on without any kind of warrants whatsoever. Their administration was at the heights of the economy completely collapsing. The subprime mortgage bubble that came about, the banks almost collapsing, the auto industry almost collapsing. Dick Cheney was a horrific figure for this country, for the world, frankly. So as people were trying to whitewash his image and trying to talk about the few times where he said bad things about Donald Trump, I could not stand here and just let that go by as if we were going to actually rebrand Dick Cheney as a good person at the end of his life, because he was far from it. In fact, he's one of the worst people alive as far as I was concerned. Well, until yesterday.
And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, I think, a lot of things that happened yesterday. And it really did feel for me poetic that he ends up dying on the day of this blue wave of hope, as I'm now referring to it. I want to give you a little taste from the Nation, because they really echo a lot of what you were saying. And I'm not going to read the article, but I just love this one line. No hell is hot enough or eternal enough for Dick Cheney. Cheney understood the catastrophe of 9/11 as an opportunity to accomplish and cement long-standing objectives. And then they go into a lot of the things you shared. I remember that time in history. I think now we look back on it with rose-colored glasses because things are so bad now that
Yeah.
we almost see George W. Bush as this sort of bumbling fool and, oh, remember him? Wouldn't it be nice to have gone back to him? But it was a terrible time in American history what happened under that ruler of Cheney because he was, I agree, sort of the shadow government of that era. And he defined a lot of the things that we are now dealing and grappling with. I mean, if you really want to take it so far as to say, without the Patriot Act, we really couldn't have ICE doing what it's doing in this moment either.
No, you couldn't.
We wouldn't have this level of surveillance, these data centers, these bunkers being built without the Patriot Act being in place, this ability to force facial recognition on people and all of these other
Right.
things that they're trying to pass. We need to acknowledge who the architect for all of this pain and misery was. So I think it was very poetic in a way that he died yesterday when we had so many incredible Democratic victories, including Zohran Mamdani, who won the New York City mayoral race. It was a historic victory for progressives in the city. I think it sets a huge tone. I'd like to talk about that with you next and really dig into not so much the nuts and bolts. I think a lot of people have done that analysis here, but also the philosophical angle of this. What does it mean to have someone that looks like Mamdani, that moves like him in this space, in a city where 9/11 took place, in a city that set off all of the catastrophic things that Cheney was able to do? To me, this feels very full circle.
The philosophical part of it takes so many different angles because I think the victory of Zohran Mamdani feels different for a different person,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think in a lot of ways, newer voters to the city, they're not going to know that much about what happened
Sure.
before during the era of 9/11 and how different Muslim Americans were persecuted around that city. So they're not going to be able to feel the triumphant like joy that probably would come from being an older Arab American in that city who actually feels like you finally got a victory after years of persecution for something that you had nothing to do with. But I think to a lot of people, what he represents is somebody who actually cares about what's happening to them because it feels like,
Mhm.
and this is not just unique to New York. And I think
Right.
that's why Mamdani is resonating with people across the country. In a lot of ways around the world, I'm seeing people from all over the world talk
Mm-hmm.
about how they were rooting for him. It's because everyone to a degree feels like we are all being left behind at the mercy of these corporations who are price gouging us to death and no one's standing up for us. And it felt like he understood that and was willing to speak to it directly and said that I will attack that directly. Something that we just do not see anywhere else. It feels like a euphoric moment because it feels like every time that someone tried to do that in the past, they were
Mm-hmm.
squashed by the establishment. And
Mm-hmm.
don't get me wrong, they tried doing it already, and I'm sure they will continue to do so going forward. But for right now, it feels like euphoria because it feels like we're actually finally breaking through, and maybe these people aren't quite as, I guess, indestructible as we've all led to believe that they are.
Yeah, what I really liked about his campaign was it to me it didn't feel like it was about him as a person, but rather the things that he wanted to represent and do for the people. And I think that's what was so different from, let's say, Andrew Cuomo's campaign, right? He was running against Mamdani as an independent. And what I found fascinating about that campaign strategy was, well, I'm not him. That was sort of his take, like somehow him being like, well, I'm not Mamdani. You don't want that guy. Oh, you mean that guy that's talking about freezing rents and city controlled grocery stores and free buses and free childcare? You don't want to be like that guy? That just seemed like a, a non-starter for a lot of people. The fact that Mamdani did videos in both Arabic and in Spanish, really
Yeah.
pulling in entire sectors of people that I think felt very left out of so many conversations, embracing multiculturalism, showing up at trans rallies and waving the trans flag, like
Yeah.
embracing groups of marginalized people that were otherwise told that you have to sit down right now because that's not popular enough with the centrists and the lefts of this party. We don't want to associate with that. We're trying to pull in those other people. This goes back to conversations you and I had a year ago, talking about how this party needs to move left. They need to talk to the people on the left. They need to appeal to the progressive ideologies of the left, and universal housing and free childcare and free transportation. Those are people first policies. That is why he has garnered so much support, because it wasn't about him. And he even said that repeatedly. This isn't about me. This happened because of all of you. That inclusion, that sense of community, people are desperate for it. They want it so bad. And they want to be inspired. I talked about this. I saw Kim Lyons jumping on to watch us, and she was on with me last night. She's a veteran journalist, incredible journalist. And we were talking about people want to feel inspired and motivated to be a part of something. That's how you engage people in the political process. So
Yeah.
for me, it wasn't just a win for New York City. It was use this as your model moving forward all around the country. Everybody can be running not the same kind of race, but they can be pulling out people first ideas that resonate with their voters, with their constituents. What is it about your community that people are asking for? He was asking people what they want, Desmond. Crazy idea.
Very crazy idea, especially in these times.
Yeah.
I think the mainstream media definitely wants to tell you what you want versus asking you what you want. I was very, not to put too much of a damper on the evening, but I was actually very disheartened to see the amount of votes that Andrew Cuomo got.
Oh,
Very disheartened. For me, it illustrates
I
where we
saw your video
still
on this. I
where we
think you did a
still
video on
are.
this.
I not quite,
Okay.
but it illustrates for me where we still are is the fact that
Hmm.
I think too many people are still getting their news from traditional media sources, to which we really
Yeah.
have to make a dent into that because for the life of me, I did not see a single piece of positive news coverage anywhere about Andrew Cuomo in the spaces that I typically frequent.
Hmm.
But I know that
Hmm.
they were relentless in the traditional, I guess, like print journalism, cable news journalism. So as far as I'm concerned, those people still have too many eyeballs on them because the
Yeah.
fact that 900,000 people lined up to vote for Andrew Cuomo, someone who has been accused of sexual assault 13 times over, who, I mean, had all the different things that are wrong with Andrew Cuomo.
Yeah.
He got endorsed by Donald Trump yesterday, and 900,000 people voted for him. Like, we really need to talk about the psychosis that is in this country from taking in too much cable news. Like, can we finally get rid of cable news? I'm sorry, everyone. CNN, MSNBC, they got to go. I know people love
Yeah.
Rachel Maddow. She needs to go independent and leave that network behind.
Yeah. I kind of am surprised she hasn't really done that yet, but that paycheck at MSNBC just must be that good, you know?
I,
So that's the only thing I can think of. And you're right, it wasn't a video, but you did like a thread. I did see you
yeah,
post this. Yeah. Because
yeah,
I was like, yeah, no, you're not wrong. And I do think we can't underestimate how much money was poured into this election
exactly.
cycle, right? That's the first thing. Zohran Mamdani was a total no-name Democratic socialist who was polling at 1% at the beginning of this. I mean, this is like, to me, one of the greatest upsets that we've just
Ever,
ever seen
ever.
politically, just
Yeah,
ever. So you're right to all of the things that you said, but I think it's that much more incredible that
yeah,
he has that much support going into this. And I think once people take a minute to calm down and understand that this man is not, this devil that he is being portrayed to be by the New York Post and everyone else, I do think there is going to come a moment where they're going to go, oh, okay, I guess this guy isn't that bad after all. Because I mean, I just, I know people are saying, because the next thing I wanted to talk about here was more about his policy ideas. And I know people are saying a lot of these things he doesn't even have the authority to do, or the governor's not going to sign off on giving him that kind of money to do these things. I think it's not even really about that. It's about the idea that we have to first say to ourselves that we deserve these things. No one was even saying it. To
yeah,
me, we need people that are going to dream with us about the fact that we deserve better for ourselves. We are not going to sit at a table and get scraps and be told that's enough for you. And I think he is re-inspiring people in a way that we haven't seen in a very, very long time. And that cannot be discounted in a moment like this where we have an authoritarian regime terrorizing us and starving us, truly. And so I don't know how much he'll be able to get accomplished, just like so many politicians are pretty ineffectual, to be completely honest, right? But it doesn't really matter for me. I think it was about the ideas that he's bringing forth. Even if he's able to do a couple of them, my gosh, what a huge improvement in people's lives that will be, right? I mean, they're able to do free busing in other cities around the country. Why not New York? They're
Doesn't make
talking
any
about
sense
it.
to me.
Doesn't make any sense. They're talking about a 2% increase in taxing people over $1 million. 2%. Like, what? You're going to move out of the city over that? I don't think so.
It would be
It's
the
just,
same
it's
tax rate that they would
nonsense.
have in New Jersey.
Thank you. Thank you.
It would be the
Right.
same tax rate that they would have in New Jersey. The city that I live in has free buses. I live in the deep red state of Montana. The
Mm-hmm.
city I live in Montana has free buses. It was a joke, honestly,
Right.
but we all know. I think intrinsically, you kind of know what this is about. The fact
Yes.
that it's about making sure that politicians like him cannot multiply. It's less about the individual results of Zohran Mamdani and more about
Mm-hmm.
if he wins, how many more people like him will pop up. And
Yeah.
I think that is what they're really afraid of at the end of the day, is the domino effect of a win of Zohran Mamdani.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think actually his governance is most important now. Because if his governance does not actually produce the things that he said it was going to produce, then that does blunt the momentum of what could be a good domino effect going forward.
Yeah, I just think we need to temper that with reality of understanding how slow the political process actually moves and how slowly things change in reality when you're actually trying to get things funded, you know? So I think we have to look at the excitement and move forward with that momentum and realize the things that we want aren't necessarily going to happen overnight, but they can only happen if we put people in positions that actually want to dream of them happening, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I think once again, people like Cuomo, it's like, well, what were you planning on doing being in power? Because anything that you were sharing didn't sound like you had any dreams or any plans.
Yeah.
So I do think there's a little bit of that. I also loved seeing that his transition team was made up of an ethnically diverse group of women. I thought that
Yeah.
was in and of itself incredibly powerful in this moment where women are being told to not participate in political life, to go home and make babies and cook dinner and not be engaged with the professional world and not create a space for themselves, for their own identities outside of this patriarchal family that the right is trying to portray and normalize through people like Erica Kirk. So for me, that in and of itself set a tone that could once again be replicated around the nation. And I think these are the important things to also be taking away is who he's providing space to stand in their own power as well. So that was powerful.
Yeah. Well, two things here. One, Lena Khan being the head
Mm-hmm.
of his transition team is a big deal. I thought that she was
Mm-hmm.
the best part of the Biden administration.
Yeah.
The second thing is we are getting, unfortunately, a lot of interference on your microphone.
I know. I noticed that too, but I'm not sure what to do about it.
I think it's
Sorry, guys. No, it's not. I promise. My earring's way back here.
oh,
I'll take them off. I'll take them off, but I don't think it is. Sorry, everybody. This is what happens when you're live. See?
see.
Still happening.
Oh, it is me. I don't know what it is then.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's just keep going.
Yeah.
We're just going to keep
So,
going. But I
what
am going
was
to take the other
the
earring off because it's going to bother me to only have one in.
what was the next topic that we had?
Okay. So moving on. There was a lot of things that were very positive that happened last night. And CBS, among many other outlets, reported how that the Democrats swept key races in 2020 elections in an early referendum on Trump. So what to know? There were four major races of the night. Obviously, when we just talked about in New York, the governor's races in New Jersey and in Virginia, and Prop 50, which was California's redistricting ballot measure. Exit polling also showed voters went to the polls with worries about the economy on their minds, coupled with broader discontent of the state of the country. And the night saw two types of Democrats win, hailing from sort of both sides of this party. Mikey Sherrill and Abigail Spanberger, who are considered more moderate, with winning their governorships in New Jersey and Virginia, while Democratic Socialist, we just talked about Mamdani, also prevailed in his own race over the state's moderate ex-governor Andrew Cuomo, who ran as an independent. So Prop 50, I think, is something that kind of flew under the radar. This is going to allow state legislators to redistrict before the midterm elections in an effort to counter the GOP-led gerrymandering in other states. CBS News polling found those who supported Prop 50 overwhelmingly cite opposition to the Trump administration as a reason. These are all really exciting developments that I think happened that I think we needed to see happen, Desmond, because had last night not played out this way,
Yeah.
I don't know how confident any of us would be feeling about 2026. What do you think the tone now is set for moving forward into the midterms?
I think the thing that people were like most fearful of was that Trump was going to interfere with the elections
Yeah.
because I don't think anyone's actually confused about where the country is right now. No one's happy.
Mm-hmm.
Like no one's happy. The people who were not like complete MAGA faithfuls, but did vote for Donald Trump last year, like
Mm-hmm.
their main reasoning for it was the economy and getting things back to normal, so to speak. Like that
Right.
was a prevailing thing. Even people in New York said, like, oh, well, things were expensive underneath Biden, so I voted for Trump. It is not happening for them the way they thought it was. Donald Trump took his mandate and used it to put ice into cities and start trade wars, which made things more expensive, and invade countries when he said that he was the pro-peace president. So you see that coming into play in a state like Virginia, where every single county went to the left. All the
Mm-hmm.
counties, every one of them went to. This is including in rural Virginia, down in the south part of Virginia, where they consider themselves the South, which that's an open debate as far as I'm concerned.
That's for
Um,
another show.
that's for another show. But no, I think it's not just the win because people say New Jersey's a blue state, Virginia's becoming a blue state, California's a blue state. Okay, it's not really just that because Republicans live in all of these states. And so you're going to see a margin in all these states. And so what you're seeing here is that people who typically would not vote or maybe would flip flop, they went to the left last night. It is a direct repudiation of where things are right now because we've seen this in the past. You saw
Yeah.
this in other presidencies, like you would see if in the odd years, if things were going the opposition party's way, that would end up being true going forward again and again and again. So, yeah, Donald Trump should really just take the hint, but he never has done that in his entire life. So I guess we'll just all have to see what happens next, right?
I agree. And it's funny because we've had so many people commenting while we've been talking. And I'm sorry, you guys, we can't get to all of these things. But the point being is people, one, they're agreeing with us. Um, I think they're also fed up, everybody that I'm looking at right here, about the direction we were going in. And people agree that things have not been panning out, I think, the way that, was expected by the Trump regime. I'm shocked, Desmond, that people who voted for Trump or didn't vote for Trump or whatever, anybody would think that this man would do anything that he says he would do when we have seen for how many years now that if his mouth is moving, he is lying. So it's like this idea that he was going to bring down the price of eggs on day one. Who actually believed that? To me, it was just like they didn't want to vote for a brown woman. That's all. And this was it's the economy. He tanked the economy the last time he was in office. Like, you guys have literal proof. Like, to me, it was so many other things that gave people an excuse to just vote for Trump, not so much that they were expecting him to do anything. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think all of these things, though, have led us to a place where you could try to say these were all blue states or these were all, going to go this way anyway. But I don't think that's the case because we saw in Bucks County, where I live in Pennsylvania. Now, I don't live in Bucks County, but I live in PA, which is very much a swing area. The entire school board went to Democrats. They kicked out basically Moms for Liberty. They don't want ICE in their community. This is in a very, very reddish purple area of my state. We're looking at Mississippi. Mississippi Democrats. This is from the Mississippi Free Press. I love using local publications whenever possible when I'm looking at journalistic ideas here. Mississippi Democrats break Republican Senate supermajority. They are now saying we are now a battleground state. Mississippi, Desmond, like that, you don't get any deeper in the South than that. So this idea that the
Yeah.
Republicans are in any way popular was totally shattered last night. They just because they speak the loudest sometimes in the room doesn't mean they're the majority. And so now I think this has provided a sense of urgency now from the Democrats to say, okay, we really need to figure out what the hell we're doing for the midterms because the momentum is on our side. So as we're looking forward here, what do you predict? Who do you think is going to start to emerge as some of these like key players looking ahead?
A couple points here. As somebody who was born and raised in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, it
Mhm.
is probably the most purple place that I've ever
Yeah.
experienced in my entire life. Usually, that county will predict, how the election itself is going to go, and I mean like the whole election, not just Pennsylvania.
Hmm.
That's just kind of like how that area of the country is. So, very happy to see that some people over there are starting to actually wake up to what's going on.
Hmm.
Mississippi is such a heavily it feels like another Georgia. It feels like if it had its own Stacey Abrams, you would probably see Mississippi actually become more of a purple state because there is
Hmm.
enough Democratic vote there, but there is a huge amount of voter suppression in that state. Unfortunately, people don't really know that about that area, but there's actually
Hmm.
heavy Democratic contingent down there. What we're going to see going forward, Natalie, this all just depends about what happens next.
Yeah.
I mean, truthfully, you don't really know what Donald Trump and the Republicans are going to do to respond to this.
Hmm.
If they double down and continue just to be as obnoxious as they have been, then I think we're going to see more of the same come next year. But yeah, I think the ball's really in their court right now. Are they going to keep knocking down, different parts of the White House and building ballrooms? Are they going to keep attacking other countries? Are they going to keep raising everyone's prices by more trade wars? Is Trump going to keep putting ice into the streets of this country? Like, what's he going to do? I mean, because if
Right.
he keeps going down that route, then yeah, there's going to be a snowball effect from here.
Yeah.
Nobody wants his agenda.
Nobody wants his agenda. Nobody needs his agenda. His agenda is stupid. It's dangerous. It's cruel. It's unnecessary. But that is part of the problem, I think, that the GOP is having right now is they've kind of boxed themselves into a corner. Because if they start to pull back on some of their policy choices, they're going to lose that sort of hardened base that really is the only part supporting or holding them up at this point. And if they continue to move in the direction that they're moving into, a train into a wall, um, the rest of the country is going to continue to fight back. And we're already seeing, ICE is losing in court. They're all losing. Every time somebody sues this administration for one of the millions of reasons that they can, they're winning, right? So
Yeah,
so his policies aren't not they're not just unpopular, they're also illegal, a lot of them.
don't
And
care about that.
no, they don't, but the courts are still holding up. And so I think
Yeah,
that there is something to be said for the rule of law still mattering a little bit in this country. And so for me, when I'm looking at what's going to happen next, I'm seeing really weird things happen, like Marjorie Taylor Greene trying to distance herself from her own party and even talking about running for president in 2028. Like things are going to get really weird. I think for the next few years, as we start to see defectors, is John Fetterman going to pretend to be a progressive again now that the tide is turning? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what masks are going to come on or come off at this point with any of these people. So it's important that we stay the course and remember the whole point of this is to move the ball forward for the people of this country and keep our foot on the gas and push people first policies and the players that are willing to go to bat for us for things like universal health care and paid family leave and universal child care and all of the things that we need and deserve and want in this country. That to me is the most important thing. We can't get distracted by all the shiny objects. We can have fun. I think today was a day to feel joy and have fun. I think we all needed this, but this is just the beginning of the work that needs to happen.
yeah. Really quickly, for those who are here right now, I want to thank you for commenting. If you want to subscribe to either of our Substacks here, you can go do so at the top of the screen right here by clicking onto that. You can subscribe to both of our publications. Also, if you want to watch the playbacks here, they'll be available on Substack later, as well as on YouTube and Spotify for those who want to go that route as well. Do we have another topic, Natalie?
No, that was really it. So I would like to wrap things up because
Yeah.
we've been, first of all, this was a long day. It's been a lot for everyone. I think everybody probably needs a little levity. So I'd like to end on a little lightness for us,
Oh, okay.
by sharing. Desmond, you and I have been playing this fun game of what have you been watching lately? That is
Yes.
your comfort show. And you're doing a really fun thing with your partner currently.
Oh, okay. Well, she said we want to end on levity. Unfortunately for her, that's not how this is going to. So yeah,
I'll end us on levity, everyone. Go on, Desmond.
there it is. My partner and I bought this little poster. It has 100 movies on it. We're supposed to be scratching off each movie and watching it together to go through all 100 of these movies. They were pre-selected for us. And so we've watched a couple more recently over the last week here. The one that we just watched was actually the first time that I've given something a 10 out of 10 on something. For the first 10 ever. Yeah, this was a monumental thing for me.
I
But
know.
unfortunately, the movie was not happy whatsoever. It was actually incredibly awful.
Okay.
The Pianist.
Oh.
Yeah, The Pianist.
Yeah.
Tough movie to watch.
That's a heavy one.
That's a tough movie to watch. It's my second time I've actually seen this movie. I watched it once as a kid, didn't really remember it too well. Came back and watched it this time around. Very tragic movie to watch. But just from giving it a standpoint of trying to give it like a rating, it was a perfect movie. It was. And I could not also get over the irony of the fact of how it lines up with what's going on today and the direct comparison of who it was happening to before and who it's happening to via now. So that is also very, very troubling. But it was very chilling tale. It kind of gives you every emotion possible. You leave absolutely drained afterwards. But we also watched a fun movie. We watched Four Weddings and a Funeral, which I had never seen that before with Hugh Grant. That was a very interesting movie. I liked it, but not a lot, but I liked it. So that was probably the more fun thing we watched. Natalie, what did you watch over the last week or so?
Okay, so my husband is doing this thing now where if I really like a movie, he's just buying it for me on DVD because we're trying to get off of some of these
streaming services
because they're all just evil.
They're
so
just
now
all spiking their prices.
And that too, just purely economical, but also, why are we giving our money to these people that are treating us all like garbage? So he recently bought me, and I'd never watched it until very recently, and I loved it. It's called The Witches of Eastwick, and it was from the 80s. Have you ever seen this movie?
No.
You need to watch it. Okay. It is about 3 women, and it's Cher, Susan Sarandon, and Michelle Pfeiffer. So it's just like
all-star cast.
Hotness overload. And they're these women that kind of have these sort of like kind of lives in this little town. They're all best friends. They get together one night and they decide they're going to manifest the perfect boyfriend. But what they accidentally do is they conjure up the devil, and it comes to him, and he comes to them in the form of Jack Nicholson, who is so unbelievable. The acting in this film, it's so campy, but like he plays the devil perfectly, exactly how you would think. He's a bad boyfriend. Like that is the devil. And it is so good. And it's so ridiculous. And I know it's a really old movie, you guys, and I'm sure a lot of you've seen it, but I'd never seen it. And I loved this movie. It is everything you want in a Halloween movie. It is campy. It's kind of, there's some gross parts, but it's not really scary. But it's this really interesting commentary on men and women and relationships. And there's these overtones of anti-capitalism and anti-patriarchy in it. And it's really interesting to see and watch. And it's fun. It's just a fun movie because we were watching a lot of Halloween movies and this was sort of the last weekend for it. So that is a movie that I'd never seen. And now I'm obsessed with it. Now I own it on DVD and I'll probably watch it every Halloween season. So there you go.
All right.
Ending us on a little levity.
Well, better than what I had in plan for us. I was like, oh, Levity, not with what I just watched. Oh no.
Oh my goodness. Everyone, thank you so much for being a part of tonight's show and sharing all of your incredible comments. Once again, I'm sorry we couldn't get to all of them, but I do want to point out Kim had shared one that she said Mamdani said one billionaire spent so much money on the race, it was more than he would have been taxed, which I think is really interesting and really tells you this isn't about money. It's always about power and control. But
Yeah.
on that note, take care of yourselves and each other, everyone, and we'll hopefully see you all very soon. Thanks
All right.
again. Bye.